Isaac, he thinks, at this point, folks, he thinks that he's going to die. And so, he's getting old. His eyesight's not too good anymore. And he's thinking, this is probably the beginning of the end. Well, he was mistaken. He was going to live a lot longer than that. But in any case, he thought, I need to set my house in order. I need to get everything set up. And sometimes, you have to be careful in your family, showing your affection and your care for one child over other children. That can lead to problems, can it? And we saw that happen here between Isaac and Rebekah. He loved Esau because he was a man of the field, a man of the woods. He was a hunter. He was, he was it. And he loved him. And not only that, but he's kind of like me and deer jerky. Some of my brothers have given me some deer jerky. He liked the meat. He liked to eat that deer. They probably, his wife Rebecca probably came in with some lentils and stuff. And it's okay to go along with the meal, but he really wants the meat. So he loved Esau. Then, of course, Rebecca is favoring who? Little Jacob, because he didn't want to go to the woods. He didn't want to go in the fields. He wanted to hang around Mama's coattail and flitter-flatter around in the tents and be sneaky and go around and see stuff and look and see what was in the tent. He didn't want to go to the field. He didn't want to do any of that, so she loved him. And so, they both had their little favorites out of the two, and that creates problems. So we already saw some of that. Now it's going to get compounded even worse by their actions. Isaac's getting old. He thinks this is the end. So he calls in Esau. Now wait a minute. Esau sold his birthright, right? He sold his position as first in line for a pot of soup. Not even a real deer. A pot of soup. I'm famished. I'm starving. He wasn't starving to death. So he messed up. But see, Jacob is he's playing this second card. A birthright is one card, but the parental blessing is something else entirely. So now he's going to bless him. He calls Esau his older son and says to him, "My son." And he answered, "Here I am." And he said, "Behold, I'm old and I don't know the days of my death. Now then, take your weapons, your quiver and your bow, and go out into the field and hunt game for me, and prepare for me delicious food, such as I love." He's like me. "And bring it to me so that I may eat, that my soul may bless you before I die." But he's going to give this parental blessing upon his oldest son. Look at verse 5. Now Rebekah was listening. I just see her, don't you? You can see her over here hidden behind the curtain. She's listening. I want to hear, he called Esau in. I want to know what's going on. Now, typically, it wasn't none of her business in that day and time, the way the families were set up. But she was listening, wasn't she? She's eavesdropping in on the conversation. And she goes and gets Jacob and says, "I heard your father speak to your brother Esau. Bring me game and prepare for me delicious food that I may eat it and bless you before the Lord before I die. Now, therefore, my son, obey my voice as I command you." Mama's talking. "Go to the flock and bring me 2 good young goats that I may prepare for them delicious food for your father such as he loves. And you shall bring it to your father so that he may bless you before he dies." Now, that's deception, isn't it? But it isn't fully blown yet. She's thinking, okay, goofy Esau's out there running around the woods. We don't know how long that's going to take, trying to find some deer. Kill it, dress it, prepare it, cook it, get it all ready. In the meantime, she's going out there and getting some nice, tender, juicy lambs. She's going to fix this thing up and let her son take it into his father. And Jacob's sitting there. He's smart enough boy now. So he's smart enough to say, wait a minute. behold, my brother Esau is a hairy man, and I'm a smooth man. Perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall seem to be mocking him and bring a curse upon myself and not a blessing. So you see, he's kind of thinking, wait a minute, this sounds like a good plan, except for Esau's a hairy man. And he said, he's going to feel my arm. He's going to say, wait a minute, you ain't Esau. And then everything's going to go downhill, and he's going to curse me. Now, in their construct, okay, here's the way they thought about this. That Abraham and Isaac was so close to God that if they cursed somebody, God cursed them. He said, whom you bless, I'll bless, and whom you curse, I'll curse. That's what the Lord told him. The last thing he wanted to do was to have Isaac curse him, because that would be long lasting. So he's a little worried about Mama's plan. Now she's conniving this whole thing up, and she's going to send him in with this plan so that he could be blessed. Now, every time I read this, until I got this curriculum, I always thought, that conniving, low-down, yellow-bellied, sap-sucking, gutless wonder. What in the world was she thinking, to go try to pull this off? But it was prophesied, wasn't it? That the older would serve the younger. God's the one that gave that prophecy. So in her mind, what is she doing? She's helping God fulfill prophecy. Wow. Yeah. Helping God fulfill prophecy. That's what she had in her mind. Because the younger is supposed to get the blessing. And the older one's going to serve him. So, as if the triune God of the universe needs our help, she was going to help him. Her God wasn't big enough to take care of all the little details. She had to go get a lamb, and get it ready. She was helping God. We have to be careful about when we construct in our mind that we can help God. I was talking to a sister this week about someone that had said something about God's will. Let me help you out about God's will. Unless the Lord has really come upon you in a powerful way, I doubt seriously most of us really comprehend God's will for our life, let alone for somebody else's. And a lot of times they'll tell people, this is not God's will for this to be happening to you or your children. You don't know that, okay? Unless God's given you that knowledge, you probably don't want to use that verbiage. And here's why. Jesus said, our Savior, that a man was born blind his entire life. And they said, who sinned? His parents or him? And what did Jesus say? He said, neither sinned. This man was made blind from birth so that I could heal him today. So sometimes infirmity and things come upon us in the will of God for His plan to be perfected. You mean that man had to spend 30 years as a blind person just so God could show that He could heal him? Absolutely. And God's plans are flawless. But if you think you can tell somebody what God's plan is for their life, make sure you know what God's plan is for yours first, right? And I think that'll keep most of us pretty busy. So, she says, don't worry. This don't sound like the typical mother, does it? Don't worry, let your curse be on me. My son, only obey my voice and go bring them to me. So he went and took them and brought them to his mother. And his mother prepared delicious food such as his father loved. I think he loved food.